Joining the conversation now to talk about the debt limit fight and the potential impact on the markets, Chris Krueger, a strategist with Cowen Washington Research Group. Elon, of course, is still with us. Chris, great for you to join the party here, so to speak. I'm wondering, this is, I think, the number one, thought on investors' mind. Is this going to be 2011? Because in 2011, during that debt crisis, the S&P 500 was down 15%. Are we going to see a repeat of that?
It could be worse, right? I mean, 2011, you at least had the two parties in agreement that there should be some type of negotiation, right? You had the discretionary spending caps, then you had the super committee, et cetera. Also in 2011, then Speaker Boehner had a 24-seat margin. Speaker McCarthy has a 4-seat margin. It took them 15 votes just to elect a speaker, which in theory is the easiest vote of the year, this being the hardest vote of the year. So unfortunately, 2011 is the right analog, but it could actually be worse than 2011, just given the structure of Congress and the tight margin within Congress, and the fact that it's not even that they're at the negotiating table right now. The White House would argue there shouldn't even be a table to negotiate at, because this is sacrosanct. We're not going to negotiate with a gun to our head.
Debating over the negotiating table. That's a terrible way to start this whole process, Chris. I appreciate that there is this notion that the United States will never and should never default, but there are steps on the way to that default that could cause massive market dislocations, such as a debt downgrade, which we saw in 2011. Is that on the table in your view as part of the it could be worse scenario that you're drawing out?
Right. I mean, 2011, we didn't default, and look what happened.
Right.
Also, the debt to GDP levels in the last 10 years have skyrocketed. We're at 120% of debt to GDP. The debt ceiling's a little over $31 trillion. So almost any way you kind of slice this up as a comp to 2011, it is frightening. And at least it's starting earlier, right? Yellen has already invoked extraordinary measures, but also just because we're in extraordinary measures, that shouldn't be sort of a cooling bomb, right? Like this is not normal. We're not supposed to be using extraordinary measures. And there is execution risk with extraordinary measures. This is always a moving target based off of future receipts. You have some outstanding questions on rate hikes, on the education department's decision to freeze student loans. So, the X date is always a moving target.
Elon, do we truly know what kind of specific spending cuts the Freedom Caucus wants to try and negotiate with Speaker McCarthy, and whether, Medicare and Social Security would have largely been viewed as, the third rails of politics are really on the table or not?
Yeah, we don't know the specifics, Scott. I mean, there are some members who have said that they will not cut Medicare, they will not cut Social Security, but that would mean you'd have to make massive cuts throughout the rest of the federal budget in order to make up for the cost of those entitlement programs. And I think that is a strategy on the side of the Freedom Caucus, because they don't want to expose themselves to additional political risk. And I think that when we discuss the debt limit and the risk to investors, the problem is that in Washington, even though everyone's talking about the debt limit, this isn't really a fight about fiscal policy, right? As you were alluding to earlier, this is really a fight between factions of the Republican Party. This is the power struggle that we saw play out during the House Speaker vote, just now playing out in the fiscal realm. And so there aren't true policy concessions that really Democrats or moderate Republicans could make in order to appease this crowd. One of the problems during the Speaker vote was that many felt like the ball kept moving. So that could happen again this time. And I think that is where you see the real danger to the markets is there's not a recipe for a resolution.